Welcome to people and your energy. Welcome to a moment of discussion about the commitment of the new generation. The energy of a new generation has a different frequency to that of an existing generation who does not recognize it. For many in the existing generation, there is consideration of this energy and a lot of fear. For many new generation people do not appear to be committed. The commitment of the new generation is to energy, not to ideas. Individuals in this generation are not concerned about a fundamental idea as being right, but the frequency as being aligned. Those individuals will be working to align themselves with whatever frequency is considered their frequency and constantly aligning themselves. Individuals in the older generation, in the generation that's not new, will find themselves aligned with ideas. More concerned about concepts of the mind than any frequency at all. So there is a breakdown in communication and acceptance of the new generation by old generation due to commitment. All the generation people will want the new generation to be committed. The new generation will already be committed. But the old generation does not recognize what they are committed to. Why would you want to be committed in a new energy to an idea? Whole focus of a generation has been to use ideas and transform them, almost to exhaust them, as a source of information. The new generation vibrates in defiance, is not interested in following ideas. Instead, would rather align with music, the sensation of life, situations or experiences. And when they have completed them and satisfied themselves, move on to the next one. You can see a game of cat and mouse appearing between those who understand and are aware of this generation and those who don't. And what has the older generation used previously to control their own generation? More ideas. These ideas have been created in rules and regulations, in systems, and they have maintained a group of people in a very insulated way. They will maintain a group of people who are able to be passive to ideas like that. The generation, old generation, has a very dumb vibration, dumbed down vibration. So of course, over time, they have become brainwashed to believe these ideas are right. These rules and regulations and philosophies are right. This religion is right. This person is right. This government is right. This media is right. In the new generation, we don't have such an awareness. They have not formed a picture according to information like this unless they are the insulated children following their parents. So their information is formed from experience. Random experiences generating vibrational frequency. And those experiences that align are creating harmony for them. If they are able to understand them a little, that is enough. And if you try as an old generation to describe entirely what's going on, they will become bored very quickly. They are committed to the energy of fun and frequency that enhances them. This goes even further for the older generation. They have supported ideas and fundamentals as part of their existence for years. Many traditions are maintained because the idea of the tradition is maintained. There is a reason to get married if everyone before you has done this before you. If it is one way that all individuals have coupled together. So, the idea of commitment in partnership is to have an idea of marriage. And the energy of the relationship is often ignored and must put up with the idea. The new generation will not like the idea. And you can imagine the old generation trying to herd them into the paddock, trying to corral them into a corner, and trying to encourage them to believe in words. And as soon as the controller has disappeared, the cheeky little brats wanting to have fun, wanting to do whatever they want, and often disputing the idea and not conforming by doing something completely different. So, how do you work with this energy? In the approach to this generation, it was expressed, there is no requirement to align them with old ideas. Instead, older generation people have to learn to accept them and their vibration. By accepting and allowing the vibration to be okay, the assimilation and the similarities become quite apparent. The energy becomes of a similar frequency. Maybe not all old generation or all new generation. Maybe something a little mixed in the middle. The fear that occurs in the old generation is the letting go of tradition. The ideas that have based communities become fundamental ideas that have controlled individuals for centuries. That's the fear. For when the new generation is prevalent in this community and in a society, and their frequency is predominant, that idea the old generation has held on to for years will slowly unravel and look silly. And in a generation's time, 10 or 20 years' time, when you say you got married, they might laugh. And when you say how important it was to be married, they might laugh even louder. And then ignore you and work in the way that is their frequency. The commitment the old generation now have is to learn how to relax their frequency, to release their ideas and the control of those ideas, and to play in the energy that they have inside them and is generated by this new generation. The old generation need to get young. They need to become new to be able to accept what's going on. And the question of commitment is a question that will challenge both generations. Often be a turning point in discussion to this awareness and understanding, and give an insight into the differences between the two frequencies. This has been your time. In the journey of understanding, often it is those who do not understand that have to understand. Have you noticed who has spoken most prevalently? Are they the new generation? Have you noticed who has sat largely and absorbed, gone with the energy of the room? Those who are likely to be more aligned with the new generation. So it's interesting, in the understanding, who will be confronted the most. As the generation starts to become a dominant feature through numbers, the debased group will be those who hold old patterns. Interesting also to understand that it is ideas that are limiting you from determining this generation. In a frequency, you have no age. But when you need to use a word to refer, you have to give an age. So in information, you were given an age, a reference. A young age. These individuals have a frequency of carefreeness, of vibrancy, don't care. In reality, that age could be you. It could be you. However, for many older people, it won't be. Instead, you will be working to reduce any resistance inside your being to allow you to vibrate more freely with the vibration that is occurring. This generation did not just occur for the sake of it. They arrived and were nurtured in a vibratory world. A world full of radio waves, technical things, that has enhanced the awareness of vibration. A mother carrying a child has walked in 9 or 10 months with this vibration affecting the embryo. The earth and its frequency is affected at the moment. So they are not just born for the sake of it. They come into an awareness that is created by the environment. Those individuals who are older, in the older generation, having to exist or move a little faster in life, are reducing the resistance. Many of you will find you have no ability to hold on to old adages that hold you back. Things that were disturbing or are disturbing inside you have to be resolved, and resolved quickly. They become very apparent, very obvious. You are reducing them or removing them, resolving them to allow yourself to have a frequency that can willingly accept the frequency that surrounds you. You will find old generation people unable to let go, unwilling to let go, sitting and hoping the world will reverse itself. Their ideas they will express, and express adamantly, as being profoundly right. Pious people will expound these ideas. And yet it will be those ideas and that expression, old ideas they're holding on to, which will kick them time and time again. You don't have to worry about them, for they get kicked by themselves. You just have to move on. Allow yourself to be part of a new frequency, a greater frequency, a higher frequency. Would you like now to ask some questions?
I have a question about what we discussed, perhaps you heard us, these children, the new generation, about healing. Are we trying to heal them from themselves, so to speak, or we're doing the right thing in trying to heal them? That's what I want to know.
Are you doing the right thing in trying to heal?
It's contradictory straight away.
All healers will try to heal, and if you don't try, you do not offer energy to allow the individual to resolve. You will never know how well you have healed. It will be an experience inside the person being healed. And maybe they are not aware either. In healing the new generation, you are doing exactly as you would old generation. You are aligning them with a state of most pleasure, greatest awareness, most love. But the state of these people is different. So you stand them up on their feet again to walk in the environment that keeps knocking them over. As an older generation person, what knocked you over might have been stress, might have been physically unable to keep up, might have been toxic waste affecting hormones, not necessarily vibration being influenced, although vibration was a component. But the change on the earth has been chemical and system influence. The older generation have the most to overcome in the future. And yet, they will be surprised. As the new generation invents ways to use vibration to heal, you will not have to take medicines or bottles of pills. You might have to sit in a vibrosauna, in the sound frequency of alignment. Look forward to it. Healing is about aligning. All you are doing in trying to heal is align. But don't try to heal this generation to what they are not aligned to. If they have a misalignment and they are constantly contained within this misalignment, you will find it has a detrimental effect. If you try to subdue a new generation person, to make them very, very calm, they are not old generation and will not heal. So they will sit still like old generation people and never really appear to get better. Unfortunately, old generation people feel if the individual's energy is controlled, the person is happy. You can't have an individual who doesn't smile happy, who doesn't laugh out loud and play happy, who sleeps all the time happy, who is constantly stuck in a whirlpool of thoughts because of narcotics. happy. You can't have that. And you can imagine the frustration and the vibration of the individual. You try living inside a body that's not yours and being told you must stay there. Or working in a job you hate and must carry on until the end of your life. Or living in a marriage you don't like and unable to escape. You try it. And see how you feel about the medicated new generation. See how you feel. Another question.
Finally, all the cell phones are talking about radio waves and things, all the cell phones and television things, and we are being constantly bombarded with all these waves and things.
Not only those waves, but the waves they affect on the way through to reach the receiver. As you agitate atoms, they agitate you. Yes, your question?
It's just, these must be affecting us, and they must be affecting the young ones, especially with the...
Except the young ones have always known this vibration. Okay? It's the old ones that are most disturbed. So, here you have misalignment. In an old person's mind, you would suggest we had none of this. We went back to purity, whatever that may be. So you are suggesting we have this. The frequency of the new generation has always known this. So you are asking them to sit for years calm. They are the new generation. They are the generation of the future. The old generation will pass away. It is the old generation that must get used to the frequency. Okay. Do you have another question?
Yes, my granddaughter has a friend who is very, very overly charged. He takes over, he ruins the events that come along. He's a nice boy, he's got a great heart, but he's hard for everyone to put up with, and he's just constantly in everyone's face. And I'm just wondering...
You know why? Because this boy is not allowed to be like this in his own time and his own space enough. So if you're told to be quiet, shut up, don't do what stimulates you. When you have an opportunity, it's like a tiger out of a cage. If he was allowed in his insulated environment to walk his vibration, he would not do it in such an accentuated way. It is non-acceptance, non-awareness that is creating the conditioning and the problem. What has his parents accepted? The word disorder or him? Very interesting. Another question.
What are the children that get labelled with like a...
Only for the old generation to understand.
Yeah.
They still don't have an answer, do they?
No.
So, let the old generation muddle along trying to find one until they're worn out and deceased. No need for the term.
What about the children though? How do they, like in society, what seems to happen a lot is that these disorders are put into place by, like say, psychiatrists and things. And so the child is labelled with something and then is fighting against the label. What can we do for the children in a...
I would not worry.
Yeah.
For those old generation people will try to find a label and another way to understand with words. But the new generation will find friends who are the same. And the frequency will create harmony. They will bond and bind together to create impact and move in their own way. They will be disrespectful to old generation, non-conformist to old generation ideas, and happy. They just won't be what old generation expect. Another question.
Are all children that come through now, all babies born of the new generation?
No. No, not all are going to be like this. Some will still be insulated and generate tradition of the old generation. Not all will be like that. Some mothers will be adamant that they will not be affected and will hold to traditional gestation. So you can see if the frequency of entry is surrounded by old generation, many children will still maintain the frequency in themselves.
I'm pregnant at the moment. What about Mary?
You're not old generation. That's why you asked. You can't see it from their perspective. You have trouble understanding them, and they have trouble understanding you. You just want to be who you are. You are not old generation. Your child will never be old generation. Are you happy with that? Good. Are you happy to know you're not an idea that they think you are, and actually the energy you really are? Inside she is. Good. How does it feel when they try to put you in a box? Tell them. How does it feel to be labeled with a word? To be told you must follow tradition. How does it feel? Foreign to you? And what is your greatest virtue in life? To have fun and enjoy yourself the best you can. That does not mean to be disruptive or necessarily to be different. It just means to make the most of your frequency. Correct? Okay. If you are allowed to be who you are, would you be happy? So you don't ask anything of old generation apart from that. If they accepted this, you would find life very accepting of you. Instead, it is the rules and the words that try to control the frequency. You will fight rules and words. You will discuss a little, and if you have no need to argue, not even attempt to carry on. And the old generation will be adamant, you must listen. Keep trying to get you with the words. You'll just shut down. Once the old generation can feel the frequency of familiarity, dislike, they will leave you alone, turn away, and you will laugh your head off. You beat them in a game, for you know the game too well. Another question.
Does a new generation young parent have an even newer generation child? a high
Yes.
vibrating child?
Yes. The frequency will be of another dimension in perspective. Yes. As the boundaries allow you to explore through sensation, to acknowledge that sensation and information from sensations is acceptable way to perceive a person. That frequency is an acceptable way to describe a person. You will extend the concept of frequency and define it even more. So yes is the answer. But if you work in the way of frequency, it does not matter. If you accept this person and their frequency and willingly look to try and accept to gain awareness, it does not matter. For you are constantly aware. So it's only when you impose words and tradition that you try to maintain a frequency according to an idea that you have a problem. Frequency will associate with frequency without issue. The issue is trying to understand it and put it in a box. You are sitting in a room full of frequency without issue. If you try to understand that and try to make into words what people's energy is, you have a problem. Another question?
So you are able to read our energy quite easily?
You are able to read your own and others as well. You are unwilling to read, that's all.
Would that be with feelings?
Yes? How do you know a person without asking a question? Must be with feelings. If you use your energy in amongst others, you can feel their energy in amongst yours. If you are willing to accept, you are in a place of knowing before you start. As soon as you feel unfamiliar energy, you will know it as well and use your own way to register energy to interpret it. You can read others almost immediately. Almost, because you have to overcome the unwillingness to accept this is a way to interpret another person. You have to overcome the unwillingness to give it a go. You have to overcome the fear that it won't fit in a box. And you know the way to do that? Just give it a go. For the more you try to overcome the fear, the more you create the box. Another question?
Yes, are these children going to, is this going to be a shorter pregnancy? Are these children going to develop faster and have a shorter lifespan?
You have many different aspects in one question. Is there a need for a longer gestation or the present gestation? Answer is no. So you already see the helping hand of medical staff allowing an individual who is of limited time to enter this world. As the vibration does not need to be set so densely, these individuals will not need to gestate as long as they have been. Next point was, will they last a short time? If the journey has a connection in soul to learning aspects of life to complete the individual, and they are able to quickly complete, there is no need for a long journey. However, if you look at it in terms of old generation, these individuals will not need medication. As new generation people, they will use vibration to heal and will then be younger. So could perceptively have longer lives than ever perceived. It will be largely determined by the nature of the soul's journey and the requirement to have a journey of short or long length, rather than the physical form breaking down. You will see already young generation people who only have achieved 10 years exhausted in their minds and disappear through their own hand. You will see the recklessness of drivers in cars and young individuals disappearing at large numbers. You will see young souls entering the earth in a very grounded way in countries that are fundamental in their energy, disappearing before they have even reached 10 years. These are all part of this process. Another question.
Will those children come back quickly, like their souls come back quickly?
If you had an exhausting life or a disappointing life, would you want to come back?
No.
If the frequency of another world is far more enhancing, would you want to come back? Think about this. Who tells you you should try and try again? New generation people or old generation people? And why do you think many older generation people would want to come back again? I would suggest older generation people passing away would want to come back and change it back to the way it was. So those who do not accept would want to give it another go. You may find they return frequently.
What do you mean by that, if they want to change it back to what it was, what their own lives were?
When you leave this world, you leave with the imprint of this life. And if you had in that imprint that your idea was right, you would want to fulfill it. If your idea is an old idea and you still believe it's right, you are adamant it's right, and haven't had an opportunity to prove your point, you will want to prove it.
So you come back and then start learning all over again.
Except as you know in life, as you prove your point, the point proves you. Have you found this in your own life?
Yes.
Those people will find it in their lives, all right? Time and time again. Another question.
Just with the vibrational healing, does the person need to go to a vibrational healer to get that, or can they call in?
Do you need to go to a person to talk to them on a cell phone?
No, so can they call in that vibrational,
Yes.
or that vibrational healing themselves and then receive what they need just by doing it themselves?
Correct.
Through setting intention?
Correct. They can call it from another who is a medium, a vessel, intermediary vessel, and they can call direct from the vibration, from source, from God, the universe. They can call from a human or a tree. They can get it from an experience. You will see it's different. They can get it from water. Cleansing effect of water. What carrier do you know that can go throughout your body and absorb a vibration as effective as water? Not air. Water.
So, do you need to set the intention for that water to heal you, or is that just going to happen?
You call it set the intention, it always happens. Do you understand? If you set the intention that from this moment I am open and willing to accept, it will happen. It will happen until you are unopen and unwilling. It's only old generation that have to think about it every time. Are you setting the intention in your mind or in your vibration? Do you understand now? If you set it in your vibration, it is in the frequency of you, constantly in the frequency. If you set it in your mind, if you forget about it, you've forgotten. You set it. You have to set it again.
I'm not sure I really know the difference to set it in my vibration to my mind.
You are sure because you said no. If you know that you are constantly healing, then your knowing is your vibration. You're not sure because you don't quite understand. You don't have to understand. If you know that you are constantly healing, and you know and know and know, and when challenged by your mind, if you're not sure, you say, I know, your vibration will accept and absorb healing, align constantly. You will have impregnated your vibration to not allow disturbance for any length of time. When a disturbance arrives, to resurrect or realign itself to right. For some disturbance are growth. So of course change must occur. It's hard for our generation to let go of ideas. Another question.
So in that case, we could use that for every intention to align with our vibrations.
An intention is only an aligned idea.
So the minute we set the intention,
Let it go. Beginning to align.
Or we are aligned.
The minute you know the intention is happening, you are aligned. When you set an intention, you only have an idea. It's no good unless the energy is working. It's still an idea. If you don't engage the idea in you, then it only ever is an idea. Let me describe it. Today you decide you are going to have a lot of money. I deserve it. My intention is now to have money in my pocket all the time. So, throughout your day, you think about it. Maybe do a little affirmation. I deserve it. I have an idea. Money is to be my friend. It's only when you know it will happen that it actually enters the frequency of whole and then radiates the frequency of whole and connects with the universe. One way to allow knowing to occur is to put yourself in the shoes of having money. Feel and imagine you have money. And then always you are told, let go. Not let go of the vibration, but let go of the thought. For if you keep coming back to your brain to think about I deserve, I have to affirm, you do not accept it in your knowing. You take all the energy from your frequency and concentrate again on thinking. So, you have a thought in the brain for the brain to think about. Its only completion occurs when the brain has completed thinking about it. When it stops thinking about it, it releases and relinquishes the thought. But you have no money in your pocket because it stayed in your head. Did you understand? So, when you know, you have allowed wholeness of self to accept it as an intention. It is a possibility. It is a frequency. You have accepted it. Another question.
There aren't any more questions at this stage. We might take a break.
Okay. Significant now to be aware of the feeling and to have a knowing inside rather than a lot of questions. To be working in a way that your vibration is starting to give you an understanding of self. By giving you an awareness of how you feel, you gain a greater awareness of more than what you knew before, more than what you felt before or ever saw before. In this time, ask yourself what you know to be true and how you feel. And if you feel right, this is right, what you are doing is right, ask your intention in its knowing to carry on. This has been your time. The ability to enter another space is just the ability to align with frequency. Interesting how it is perceived it should take time to do this transition. I could hear you thinking. It is only alignment that is required, not time. As you'll see in the new generation, many things do not require time. The time that it takes all generation to complete. They require just a moment to experience. So you have a structural change occurring when the new generation begins to take over. This change will mean that boundaries and criteria that have been established will have to be loosened. You have an idea of career established in our generation. It was established to ensure security in job, workplace. In a time of insecurity, it was established to maintain a regular income for a family. And then it was extended to give it scope to allow a person to get credibility in an area of expertise and to specialize in an industrial society. But it was an idea that suited a generation and a time. There is, in a new generation, no need for a career. A job or task will be done, and they will tell you that. I do my job, don't worry about it, I'll get it done. In the time they want to. Maybe if you get off my back, I'll do it later. And it will be done, surprisingly quickly at times. But not because they want to have a career in the job. Instead, because they want the experience. And this experience, once completed, will allow them an opportunity to have another one. That disconnected thought in an old generation world is going to require the parameters of careers to be established in other ways. The systems of education that support movement into careers to be revisited and reworked. And the nature of those who profess to be in charge of work, education, or systems to be restructured. What will the job of a boss be? To be bossy? Or to constantly align the maverick energy with the moment? The juggler. And how many bosses after a career in the industry and having achieved the top will be willing to get off their backside and juggle daily and constantly? Not many. It's a time of interesting information being restructured, systems being reinvented which are not systematically controlling individuals, ideas being associated with unassociable energy or frequency, and people looking lost. The energy will find you, the frequency will find you, and you will go with the flow. It will be like one continuous roller coaster. The new generation will be excited and laughing. Old generation scared stiff. Would you like now to ask some more questions?
Yes, we've recently gotten new leaders in America and in this country. They both advocated change. Do they have the ability to deal with what's coming with the new generation?
Yes, they do. If they are jugglers. No, they don't if they're the boss. First point. Second point. If they are willing to accept the new generation and look at them to become aware of the future, yes, they can. But if they try to impose controls of the old generation on the frequency of the future, they will be in a disturbing situation. So it will depend largely how they are guided and what they are guided to. Old information or the future.
Yes.
Another question.
Is how is the mass of this new energy affecting the earth energy?
Once it was possible for the earth to absorb all the slugs. Now the frequency is not only this generation, but also the frequency of air and vibration, such as telecommunication. It is not possible for the earth in its sluggish form to absorb. And so it is expressing this in more constant interference. Earthquake, flooding, situations where there is viral infection, disturbance in pollution. It will, in time, Mother Nature will win.
Will win.
Will win. How will it win? Because the victims will be those who are closer to the ground and the old generation. And it will get rid of the disturbance factor and vibrate according to equilibrium. It will have a lighter vibration because the new generation will live lighter on the earth. They will be more concerned with frequency and less concerned with pollution or destroying the planet. They will work in a feeling way to align with the frequency that surrounds them more often than those who are the thinkers. And they will not have a problem assessing their environment in their decisions. It will win. Do you have another question? The disturbance at the moment is the transition.
When the people are vibrating higher, do they need to do more exercise or to stay healthy?
How do you do high vibration exercise?
I don't know, I imagine that.
Okay. Let me describe for you what creates illness. Illness is unaligned energy. Unaligned with the frequency of the individual, the moment creates disturbance. Maybe a blockage, maybe a pain, maybe something that malfunctions. And the body, in its own wisdom, tries to align quickly the disturbance. Sometimes needs persuasion or additives to make it aligned. And sometimes it does not get what is required and so remains out of alignment for a period of time. In a physical form, humans have had to learn to exercise, to increase their vibration and the awareness of an increased vibration. So they have been encouraged to move a little more and start exercising. This has allowed the physical form to align easily and create less blockage like heart attack or cholesterol. This new generation time is aligned to a high frequency vibration. You can't jump up and down and achieve it. You have to open your energy that's of higher frequency within you. You notice the disturbance is not in the physical form, but in emotions and in thinking. And the greatest resistance to enlightened thought is the stubborn brain. You also notice large amount of mental illness, perceived mental disorders and learning disorders or thinking disorders. Particularly where those individuals have been unwilling or unable to vibrate according to the energy that goes through them. To do exercise in the new generation is to expand this energy of the mind and to follow the energy of sensation. They will use frequency in sound, light, and stimulation to gain an awareness. This frequency will be stimulated or internally imposed like Om. And this will give them the exercise of their vibration. And those who do not exercise and are impacted by the stubborn thoughts of systems and controls will get headaches, will feel mentally disposed to dilemma, will have apparitions and psychotic behavior, will be labeled ADHD, will be altruistic if they combine thought energy out of control with emotions. It's interesting. I have to just refrain a little, for we cannot go too fast. I can tell you one thing. In the future, you will be sitting in capsules of blue light vibration to allow you to express openly in relationships and situations your innermost thought. It will unlock nervous tension and any form of disturbance in thinking throughout childhood. Blue light vibration. Another question.
Okay. I'm thinking about what you were saying about ADH, and I'll talk about an experience that I had with a scientist I work with. His son has been diagnosed as being autistic, presumably by a health professional. The child goes to school, and apparently his behaviour is quite tiring for his classmates and the teacher. It's a spatial thing. He doesn't have any concept of the comfortable space that other people need around them. And I think this is something that the rest of us probably can relate to. I work in a textile laboratory, so he asked me for some carpet squares, because one of the things that we do is test tiles and carpets. And the idea was that each child would be given a carpet square that they could call their own, and when they're sitting, I think it's called on the mat in primary school, they would have this space that would be their own space. And this would be one way that the child would perhaps learn the concept of the spatial comfort that other people need around themselves. Now, you talked before about allowing a child to express themselves and to behave as would be normal for them. But what about the concept of what other people, his classmates, for instance, feel comfortable with? Can you perhaps explain that a little bit, what you think?
Yes. Firstly, to impose a flea in a bottle is to put a person in an uncomfortable environment that does not suit them. That is an imposition of trying to make round peg fit square hole. But because conformity means this individual is not allowed to stand alone, it is a forced fit. Yet, if in willingness you had an environment of sensory stimulation that did not have to conform to a school classroom, this individual would thrive. You mentioned the carpet square for spatial awareness. The greatest attachment the individual you describe has to the carpet is through touch, through the sensation of knowing this is my piece of carpet. And if it was possible in classroom situation to use more sensory awareness, this individual would have an equilibrium attained more often. Instead, it is constantly reinforced conformity and should start to learn how others learn and slowly do it. So you have a very constrained energy, forced to think that does not want to think. And it is highly emotive because in reaction to forced concentration, eating something on your plate you don't like, it is rebellious. It is not rebellious because it wants to be rebellious, but it's like a spring that gets constantly compacted and can't help itself but explode. If utilized correctly, stimulation could change the behavioral situation. Individuals like this who are able to have more sensory situations will find less need to release spring. And if you have a connection to carpet and feeling things using touch, suggestion is to coordinate an approach through touching items, making items through hands and molding. First suggestion, give this young one some clay and get them to describe in clay whatever is being discussed in the room. And if you find they first are a little anxious, it is understandable, and if they get frustrated in trying to achieve, also understandable, until they maintain equilibrium in energy, they will have difficulty doing something they have not ever done before. A thinking person is able to think it through, but this person will have to feel it through. Then with the clay and the ability to make objects, you must consider the destructive effect of destroying what they have made. So you might find the individual is only person to destroy. And there is an accumulation of objects in reference. And this will require new clay for new things. A thinking person would consider this a waste of clay. But this individual would not. With emotions now focused on making and achieving and showing a point, showing an expression of self through an item or object, you will find this individual is able to facilitate expression of themselves. With the ability to express the feelings they have inside themselves, you have then an individual willing to do so and able to do so. And rather than conformity, has a vehicle in which they can express the inner frustration of their energy. Try it. Are you okay?
Actually, I have talked to them and asked them.
Yes.
They had a teacher's aid with them all the time too. So maybe that's...
It only takes a few periods with clay to see a result. And then when you see a result, you will be impressed with yourself for even having suggested. For you see someone with a smile on their face, and you don't have a room of disgruntled people.
I don't know the child, I only know the father because I work with him.
You know the energy though. You have a feeling for the situation. You have a wanting and a willingness to help. Allow yourself to open this up if the conversation allows it to happen. The universe will give you an opportunity. Step into it. Allow this individual to free themselves from inside. Another question.
Could that also work with somebody with Alzheimer's? I'm thinking specifically Paddy, who is getting very angry and unable to express anything but anger at the moment. Could that work for you?
In this situation, no. In another situation, possibly. In this situation, when you have burned the pathways, when you have dislodged and dissociated packages of ideas, it is hard because you cannot find a pathway to associate what you used to be able to do. So this is a wear and tear factor in an individual's brain. And this would not help, because in trying to achieve the facilitation of some symbol in a form, they would have to use brain function. The individual in this other situation has no way to express an existing brain function. Your person has limited brain function and the ability to coordinate ideas to make patterns. So you ask them to make a pattern, they will become more frustrated. Some individuals, however, could use this way if the Alzheimer's was in particular areas of the brain and was only selective Alzheimer's. So it was used as a distractive factor to encourage them not to concentrate on thinking of the area that is dissociating and to come at it from another angle. This way you could access through sensory stimulation how to express something that could not be found mentally. Another question? You don't have to ask such a hard question. You might have a simple one.
I've got a simple one. My niece is misplaced or lost a present she was given by her mother, her brain, and just wanted to know whether you could help her with that.
I have a ring wrapped up. I've wrapped it up in like a tissue, and she's put it in either a book or something like looks like a book, in like a folder, like a book, and just carefully flick through pages and something appear. She has to go slowly. She's bull at the gate trying to find it. She will find it. I feel very aligned with this idea. Next question.
Simon, just a thing, going back over history, obviously, in time, we were pretty dense to begin with. Our vibrations were very dense. Have our vibrations just been constantly and steadily evolving and lightening through generations?
Of course. Of course. Not because a human wants to evolve like this, but when you have finished exploring the ground, you look up above you and want to explore the sky. So you have exhausted the need for individuals to be agrarian. If you were asked today to revert to fundamental clothes with a little hoe in your hand and spend your whole existence digging potato, how would you feel? Not stimulated at all. And so mankind has looked to evolve ways to make the facilitation of the agrarian society easier. You have machinery and other ways of making things grow that you don't need labor or time. Now, what do? You got a lazy mankind. So the mankind looked at something else, slowly moving up through the chakra. You have had a period where human development has been a focal factor. Many people have written books on how to relate to each other, how to look at self-esteem and self-healing, large period of self-awareness. Many book is finished on the shelf, and people bored, moving to look at things they don't know, look at computer. So explore the aspects of this universe that have intrigue. They are running out of spaces to look at. The unknown is always where they look. So they move slowly and quickly into the areas of unknown. Some people will take a lateral approach and unknown elements of the agrarian society, unknown elements of history, unknown elements of mystery. Others will want to explore unknown elements of unknown and concepts beyond whatever was considered. So we have a lot of people looking at these things now.